Howdy's joined by David Cole as we dive into some of the stories that have worked their way to the EKN homepage over the last couple of weeks. This is episode 43 of This Week in Karting. It's May the 17th, Tuesday, as we are now obviously deep into the racing season. Lots of big events coming down the line. Lots of news, of course, coming as well. Not only what's happening within the racing industry right now and in the weeks coming, but also we've got some information looking down towards November and the fall and the cap of the 2022 season. Today's edition of This Week in Karting, our podcast that brings all the news from the homepage into your podcast channels, your podcast platforms, perfect for the morning commute. Again, the sponsor today, Briggs Racing. Briggs & Stratton is powering Operation Grassroots around the world. No other engine manufacturer is getting new and returning drivers to the kart track like the Briggs 206. The out-of-the-box performance of the Briggs 206 provides the most fun, excitement, and reliability of any karting engine on the global market. Learn more about the 206 engine and the history behind Briggs & Stratton's commitment to motorsports at briggsracing.com or on Instagram at Race Briggs. All right, David, let's jump into this. We got a bunch of stuff to go in this particular edition of This Week in Karting. First and foremost, I think everybody kind of sitting on the sidelines waiting to hear what was happening. Superkarts USA finally dropping the hammer, dropping the news on where we're going to be, when we're going to be for what will be an absolutely historic 25th edition of their Super Nationals.
Yeah, I think we've been waiting since November or December, right? when we finished up Super Nationals 24 at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Again, going there was still a question. Okay, what is the future of the Super Nationals in Vegas? To be honest, it was a thought of, is it going to leave Vegas? Is it, what's gonna happen to this marquee event that Superkarts USA continues to put on over and over again?
Yeah. Listen, the growth of Las Vegas itself as a city, some of the available lots are kind of going away, kind of a thing, and the Rio's always been that place that we've been able to go. It's been essentially the highlight venue for the event. We keep coming back to the Rio. We've had different events at Sam Boyd Stadium, at Westgate, the Westgate Las Vegas Convention Center. But after the first couple of years of the race, when it started back in '97, the Rio was the first step. That was that move from Sloan out at the kart track further south on I-15 into the city for the first time, and it's kind of been the spiritual home in terms of the Supernats, based on where it's been through different ownership groups. But David, going back there now, the confirmation coming from Superkarts USA back to the Rio All-Suite Hotel and Casino this year. And back to the traditional date as well, the weekend before Thanksgiving, November 16th to the 20th for this year's edition.
Well, I think that was the key element of where Super Nationals 25 was going to be, was the time slot. I think it really kind of played into 2022 with Super Nationals 24 being in December rather than November, because it pushed the season a couple more weeks later. And it didn't allow for teams to kind of take that break and kind of reset for the new season that was going to be coming. Because again, by the time you get back and you got Christmas and all that other stuff, there's not a lot of time to kind of regroup. And Superkarts USA Winter Series is right around the corner. So yeah, I think that's the biggest thing I take away from, is going back to that kind of traditional week before Thanksgiving.
I think I would bet a lot of the team owners, a lot of the mechanics kind of breathe the sigh of relief, right? Because as you said, they're in Las Vegas for a couple of events. You've got the Super Nationals this past year, as you said, was the first week of December. I think they've relied on, getting things packed up, getting out of there, maybe getting home for Thanksgiving with the family, and then spending all December, prepping, right? Putting new carts together for the new year, whatever it may be, cleaning out the trailers, whatever it is. Like, just have that month of December where everybody can kind of take a deep breath and I think kind of step back, I think is crucial. So going back to that November 16th to 20 date is big. The Rio, of course, as I said before, kind of the spiritual home of the event, the first track that we went to coming away from the Las Vegas Karting Center back in 2002. That kind of brought us into the city and kind of changed the mindset of where we're going to place this particular race. Now, David, I haven't gone deep into it. What do you know about the actual Rio itself in terms of the ownership group right now? I know there's a bit of a change there. Am I not correct?
Well, it happened prior to Super Nationals 24. All of this was going about. It is owned by Dreamscape, the company named Dreamscape, and but yet it is still operated by the Caesars Entertainment company up until December December of 2023. So that was kind of in the information that was given through the press release and obviously news items that have been published over the last couple of years. So again, it's not the same people that has been dealing with since going back there in 2008. So and even 2018. There's been a lot of change with that the business that owns and operates it. So that has a lot to do with some of the chaoticness that was last year.
Yeah.
But also, just a lot of other things that kind of transpired to what happened. So again, you talk about how this is the unofficial home. This will be the 12th time that we've held the Super Nationals at the Rio.
Yeah, looking forward to getting back there again. Those of you who do want to come and be part of what will obviously be a historic event, the 25th running of this great race. Registration will be opening Sunday, July the 10th. I know that's a couple of months away, but knowing how things normally go in terms of people jumping on board to sign up, make sure you're ready to go. Sunday, July the 10th, noon Pacific, the scheduled opening of registration for this year's Super Nationals. I know I'm most definitely looking forward to it, David. You and I obviously always looking forward to getting to Las Vegas for this event. Really, kind of has been one of the key programs when it comes to ekartingnews.com because, we've covered it for so many years live through the radio broadcast, obviously EKN Radio Network. We've been front and center in the live video streams with the announcing that I've done with the event itself, the coverage we've done, but also really was, your first big play when we brought you on board back in 2004 when we bought ekartingnews.com. It was the Super Nationals, right, that we went to back in 2004 and raised the level of coverage and raised what eKarting was doing in terms of daily reporting. Back then, all I had was the magazine, right? So I announced the race. Month and a half later, you see the coverage. We brought EKN in for the coverage that we did. Man, we went deep on the Super Nats that year.
Yeah, and it was a unique atmosphere because it was also the first time being at Sam Boyd Stadium. Yeah. So that was, it was a different location for Supercarts USA. So kind of everything was kind of brand new and unique in that terms because nobody had never been there. We were also, I think, staying at the Excalibur. That was the host hotel, so it was a different Excalibur. So that was a different vibe as well too. Again, having those 2 years at the Rio and then going to Sam Boyd and then also with the organization, it was kind of a bit of in a transition as well too. Jim Murley was not involved anymore. Joe Janowski was kind of the head point man involved with the organization. So yeah, and then our coverage, we did actual, I don't know if we did actual taped interviews. But we eventually did that. We started doing like your race call for like Super Pros a couple years after that. Yep. And then eventually, we opened up with doing, live coverage at the Super Nationals, which we had never done before.
Well, remember too, Dave, we did that. We recorded one of our Happy Hour with Howden podcasts on the front straightaway.
Yeah, that had to have been 2005. That's when we started doing our podcasts. That's when we started doing the Happy Hour with Howden. Yeah, we had, I think, Alan Rudolph, Ron White, and I want to say there was somebody else. Maybe it was just those two guys, and then the three of us with Tim Blaney. Yep. So that was, on the front stretch, I think Saturday night before the main events on Super Sunday.
That was awesome. So again, Super Nationals is back for number 25. And again, anybody looking forward to that? November 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th. Add that up on your calendar. Cross it off. We'll see you at the Rio All Suite Hotel and Casino. And again, registration opening on Sunday, July the 10th. David, USPKS, the United States Pro Kart Series, actually coming out with a format change, which I thought was interesting. That news, of course, getting to the EKN homepage. And, of course, out through our EKN News Desk bulletin as well. If you haven't signed up for the email bulletin, you can do that every time you jump onto the website. You'll see the bulletin pop up. Pretty significant change in terms of the way they're approaching qualifying.
Not necessarily a significant change, but
I think that's pretty significant myself.
Well, it's going back to what they've been doing.
Yeah. Yeah,
I think
exactly.
I think the significance about it is they're doing it mid-season. I think that's the
Yeah, okay.
unique part about it. Um, and really, it's kind of coming as a shock to me because I wasn't aware that there was such a negativity towards the format that they had put in place for the first two events. So let's get
But
into
yeah,
kind of the
detail
details.
that. Yeah, exactly.
The 2022 season's been obviously record breaking for them with now two events over the 300 entry mark and 7
Massive.
different categories that they've had.
Crazy.
And prior to the Orlando event that they held in March, they decided to move both qualifying sessions to Friday afternoon. So giving you only 3 practice sessions and then 2 qualifying sessions to set the grids for both Saturday and Sunday with 2 qualifying sessions. So that obviously was a different, unique approach. Other programs have tried to do that or are still doing that. And right, I think just the week after GoPro for the second event, the Carolina Grand Prix, United States Pro Kart Series announced that they were going to go back to the old style of qualifying same day as that round. So essentially, both qualifying sessions are going to move to both. Saturday session is going to be on Saturday now. Sunday session is going to be on Sunday, and then provide more practice time on Friday to replace those qualifying sessions. So again, that last session, that 5th session on Friday, will essentially be that happy hour session where they'll be able to kind of reorder the field and split them up into groups based on that session of the day for qualifying both on Saturday and Sunday. So and again, I think it was more so they did that because of the field sizes they were expecting.
Yeah.
Right now, really, KA100 senior and KA100 junior are those categories where you're going to have more than the 40 or 44 number. That essentially is what they've been going by.
Yeah, and that was the concept, right, guys? There's so many racers, and you pack in the schedules on Saturday and Sunday. They end up being long days. Hey, if we can get qualifying done on Friday, that opens up to maybe a shorter day on Saturday and Sunday. But David, as you said, it's the 2 classes that really have been split in half with the last chance qualifiers. So it is going to make for a little bit longer day, a couple hours probably.
Yeah,
right?
It is.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Well, qualifying, thankfully, it goes by quick because they split them up into smaller groups. It isn't that 7-minute session. It's green, white, checkered. So they're
like
really,
that.
it's a real. The qualifying time wise is really not that long. But again, it's going to add a good hour and a half, I think, to each day. And so when you factor in that, you got the 2. You'll have KA100 senior, KA100 junior running 2 pre-finals, so that continues to add time to the schedule, and then you got your last chance qualifiers for both those, and then the main event. So it's going to make for a really long day, I think, at Road America, and hopefully, again, that's without any on-track issues or any weather delays or any of that type of scenarios that's going to happen. So again, I didn't hear too many complaints regarding the format, and I think it helped schedule-wise because it gave you that time to be able to be done at a respectable time at night, to where you can wrap up, get cleaned up, and go have dinner. To where now it's going to be podiums might not get done till 7:30, 8 o'clock, depending on how things go during the day. So it's good for the summer. We got plenty of sunlight. Road America doesn't have lights though. So I think Road America will be good. I think, they'll kind of review how things go at Road America, I'm hoping, and then kind of figure out what's going to happen for Newcastle. That'll be in September 15th through the 18th at Newcastle Motorsports Park. I like the way, because again, everybody's already there Thursday.
I hear what you're saying. Yeah, for sure.
You're getting 6 hours of practice on Thursday, run by the track. And then you get those 3 morning sessions on Friday are essentially to just make sure you're ready to go for qualifying at the end of the day. And so I'm not quite sure we need 10 sessions of practice for these drivers to be ready. So,
well, obviously, David, the input coming from the drivers, the teams themselves, and you said you may have not heard it, but if there's one thing that USPKS does do, they do listen to their customers for sure. And hey, if this came down in enough of majority, and then Mark Coates and Tim Coyan making the move, right?
Well, yeah, I just look at this. You might have to cut laps now, because they were pretty long pre-finals and long finals, and if time restraints are a factor, you're going to have to start cutting laps. And I think maybe people are willing to give up laps in the pre-final and finals in order to go back to this format.
Yeah. Well, and again, that's the thing, right? Maybe people complaining a bit that the qualifying sessions coming back to back, for Sunday and Saturday on Friday afternoon. And, I wasn't able to get as quick as I possibly could. That kind of thing kind of changes things a little bit in terms of, well,
I think it's more chaotic. It's more chaotic.
Okay.
Yeah. Because if you have one set of wheels that you want to utilize,
well, come on, listen, you use all that you want to utilize. I'm gonna say if you're gonna go USPKS racing, you better come with more than one set of wheels,
right? But you might be, it could be, this could be the set that you want to use.
Yeah, my thought's more that, listen, if you're not very good on Friday, you're kind of hamstrung for the whole weekend, right? Whereas,
well, true,
you can get better through Saturday, and then you qualify Sunday morning. We just, you know what I'm saying? It gives you these drivers the opportunity to use Saturday to keep developing, and then, hey, you know what? I was really good by the end of Saturday, so I qualify better on Sunday, as opposed to maybe you're sucking on Friday and you're,
Yeah, I again, I don't think the performance of a driver is going to change based on whether qualifying is on Friday or Saturday. See, I really don't.
I drastically disagree with you. If you're struggling with the racetrack and let's say you've never been to the Road America before, you practice on Thursday, you're on Friday, you got to do both your qualifying on Friday, but then you race all the way Saturday. A lot of guys are going to get better throughout the Saturday, and so Sunday they may have a lot better qualifying situation. That's my opinion.
Oh, you're thinking, okay, I get what you're saying. So it's going to help you for Sunday's qualifying.
For your
session.
Sunday qualifying, exactly that.
Gotcha. Okay. See, that was throwing me off. Okay.
See, David,
that part I understand.
David, if you're somebody that's a horrible qualifier like yourself.
No, I don't have to worry about that, Rob. I've been top 15 every time I race, so.
You are pretty good at qualifying, David. I'll give you that. So USPKS, this is coming into play, obviously, for the Badger State Grand Prix, July 7th to 10th. As David mentioned, that's up at Briggs and Stratton Motorplex at Road America up in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. If you've never been to this facility, obviously Road America, iconic in the world of American motorsports and really global motorsports. But to have that car track, that amazing car track, right essentially on the outside of turn number 6, 7, and 8, at the track is just it's obviously an amazing place to go. And of course, the season then capping off at the Hoosier State Grand Prix, September 15th to 18th, Newcastle Motorsports Park. That'll cap off the season. And this particular format change, as we talked about in qualifying, will be in place, as David said, a mid-season change for both of these final events of the 2022 season.
I'm good we got to talk about this, Rob, because that did open my eyes to a different perspective. You sometimes you're stuck in your own little box, and I think I was stuck in my own little box in this scenario, and I'm like, oh my gosh, now it's like I've knocked down both sides and I'm powering through, and I'm like,
well,
yes.
And David, it's the balance. It's the balance between now we're going to have super long days versus I don't want people to get jammed into having to be qualifying back and forth if they're not good.
Well, and so maybe we do Saturday's qualifying session Friday at the end of the day, because then that saves you time
on Saturday
going in on a Saturday.
Yep.
And then, again, Sunday makes it for a little bit longer of a day, but at least everybody has things, in rhythm. They know when they're supposed to be going, et cetera, et cetera. Well, so again,
SCUSA did that, right? Supercars USA did that with the Super Nationals, as we know, ridiculously long days.
Right.
Remember when they did that at the end of, obviously, full day practice
Thursday.
Full day practice
Wednesday.
on Friday. No, full day of practice on
Thursday.
Wednesday. Full day of practice on Thursday. They decided to move the qualifying to Thursday afternoon. That really freed things up for Friday's still super busy, but then Saturday's super laid back, right? You got one more heat. You got morning warm up, your third heat race, LCQs. It just kind of frees up that the Saturday and Sunday a little bit, and it's worked for SCUSA. I'm sure that the guys at USPKS will continue to look at it to try to fine tune, right?
Yeah. No, I'm just happy we got it. Just eye-opening experience this morning.
All right, let's jump into our first break in the action, folks, of this edition of This Week in Karting. Rob Howden alongside David Cole, episode 43 of what is essentially our wrap-up of everything that's worked its way to the homepage on ekartingnews.com over the last couple of weeks. When we get back, we're going to talk the Quincy Grand Prix, and we're going to talk about one of the big names in the sport making a move professionally and personally. Technology, design, and manufacturing. These components make Kart Republic a world champion. The Kart Republic chassis has earned 2 FIA World Karting Championships. Here in the U.S., the brand has earned multiple victories and championships in senior, junior, and cadet competition. Kartsport North America is the country's importer and distributor for Dino Chiesa's Kart Republic chassis, and as a leader in American karting, they are focused on providing stability for the sport and quality products and service for the community. Whether you'd like to find out about the Kart Republic dealer closer to you or schedule an arrive and drive package with an official North American race team, contact Kartsport North America through their official website, www.kartsportna.com. We are Republic. We are one. Acceleration Kart Racing is your first and only stop on the internet for karts, parts, and the safety gear you need to get you on the track. Visit shopakr.com for a great selection of karting equipment on a user-friendly website. Acceleration Kart Racing has aligned itself with many of the top manufacturers and distributors in the sport to ensure all the latest equipment is available to you, the racer. With over 20 years in business and customer support available 6 days a week, you can be confident about getting the right parts at the right price when you need them. Be sure to visit shopakr.com today or stop by their headquarters in Las Vegas. Make sure to follow Acceleration Kart Racing on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for the latest specials and new arrivals. Welcome back to episode 43 of This Week in Karting, where we take all the news that worked its way to the homepage on ekartingnews.com and put it in a podcast form, perfect for your morning or afternoon commutes to work, or whether you're potentially working in the garage, getting prepped up for the new weekend. Fire this up on your mobile device or whatever it may be, and we'll bring you up to speed on what's going on in the sport. David, I think a kind of a cool thing coming out of Terry Trader and the good folks at the Quincy Grand Prix, the legendary park race in Quincy, Illinois. The event coming June the 11th and 12th, legendary race, of course. They offered up an invitation, essentially a free entry to the top 10 in the EKN driver rankings in both the shifter kart and tag categories. I know that Terry wants to have some of the big guns come and play, and that's a pretty cool deal if you ask me.
Yeah, it is. It's a great way to open the door for people who might not have thought of going to Quincy Grand Prix. Again, it's one of those unique events. It's one of the most insane street races you'll ever participate in, the way it goes through an actual park in the city of Quincy, Illinois, South Park to be exact. And it's a great way to, especially for the tag guys, there's not a tag class there, but it's hey, come race whatever, if you want to race a shifter class, you want to race a Briggs class, you want to race the FK 100 class that welcomes all the 100cc engine power plants into one category. Again, it's and then the shifter guys, obviously that is like the insane online videos. Yeah, Isle of Man videos that you see across the YouTube since going back there in 2018. Now that we have these phenomenal onboard cameras that we didn't quite have back in the late 90s to early 2000s.
True that. Yeah, no doubt about it. Also, David, offering free entries to the winners of the CKNA Grand Nationals back from 2021 as well. I like the fact that Terry's stepping up and kind of offering up some opportunities for guys that have shown been able to get success. Cool.
Yeah, again, street racing is a unique form of our sport, and some people are hesitant to do that. Again, you think about walls and barriers, it kind of, adds different element of being insane and crazy to do what we do. But it's definitely something that you have to experience at least once. And hopefully, again, these free entries for both the top 10 in shifter kart and tag, along with the winners from the Cup Karts North America Grand Nationals back in 2021 are able to take advantage of this opportunity.
I'm a huge fan of street racing. I remember back in 1995, the first year I started karting, I think it was my sixth or seventh race. I went to the Barrie Grand Prix, which was a big event then, and ever since then, I've loved it. We both run. I'm not sure exactly how many times I've raced Rock Island. It's got to be probably 10 times I've had a chance to race at Rock Island. I love running street races. To me, it's a ton of fun. It's a different mindset. You don't go out there balls out like you would at a race at a regular track, where you're hanging it out every corner because there's no runoff. It's not like you can drop a wheel or go 4 wheels off. You're going to be in a barrier. So it just changes the mindset a little bit. But Quincy Grand Prix, I remember I raced it back in 1997. Terry Trader has done a ton. They've invested a lot in barriers and fencing to make the track a lot safer than it was, back in the early days. But again, it's all about the driver being smart and really enjoying what is an unbelievably fun discipline of our sport. Again, the Quincy Grand Prix coming June the 11th and 12th. And again, free invitation offers coming to the top 10 drivers in the ECAN driver rankings and any winner from last year's CKNA Grand Nationals at Newcastle.
Yeah, and hopefully next year the schedules will be a lot better to where we'll be able to get down there.
It's the same weekend as the SCUSA Spring Nationals in Utah, which is a shame. You hate to see major events like this climbing on top of each other, and this one really probably didn't need to happen. So hopefully in the future we'll see promoters looking to potentially not jump on top of some of the iconic events.
Yeah, maybe Road to Indy too.
Yeah, true enough. Yeah, well, I don't think the Road to Indy really looks at karting.
I don't think they do, but
it's
we'll see. We'll see.
Hey, IndyCar, where we go? Where do we get to go? More of a deal there. So yeah, because I won't even. Yeah, I can't go to Quincy, and I can't go to Utah. So yeah, it's a shame. David, big news coming out of the industry this past week as well when we learned that Gary Lawson, one of the legends of our sport, no doubt about it, all-time winning driver at Rock Island Grand Prix, just a tremendous part of our industry and of course the community. Gary, who's been with Comet Kart Sales for the last number of years, electing to essentially head back home. This is both professional and personal. Gary and his family from Ohio, they moved to Indiana to be part of the Comet Kart Sales family, but decided to head back to Ohio to be around their entire family, not opposed to the Comet family, but their actual family itself. Leaving in June, Gary will head back, but he's staying in the sport, which is awesome. He's going to launch Lawson Speed Shop out of his new home in Ohio. All in all, I think it's a cool deal. Hate that, obviously the connection, the family level, because Comet Kart Sales, as we know, is a huge family program. Mark Jr., third generation, and he, Gary was part of that family. But obviously, a significant development in the sport itself.
Yeah, it is. And, again, the major takeaway from this, Comet Kart Sales will no longer, and Comet Racing Engines will no longer be servicing 4-cycle engines. So that, I think, is kind of the biggest impact of this, because Gary was the lead mechanic in terms of 4-cycle engine service at Comet Racing Engines, Comet Kart Sales. So that I think is the biggest takeaway. Obviously, Comet Kart Sales and Comet Racing Engines still going to be providing, the 2-cycle service with, IAME and all the other different manufacturers with the 2-cycle mode of power plant with Dismore, Mark Harrison, Jason Zentz, and Ron Peterson still servicing all those different engines through that plant. As we know, Dismore, I think, went to the USPCast with probably close to 100 engines, either renting them out or, servicing the many different customers that they had there. So again, it's a nonstop business with Comet Racing Engines right now.
Yeah, Comet Racing Engines is one of the premier engine building programs in the sport. And as David said, a lot of engines at every major event. Mark Jr., of course, trackside and the crew there. Back at the shop as well. But yeah, kudos to Gary making a move for the family. Lawson Speed Shop in Northeast Ohio opening this summer. Again, we'll focus on the Briggs 206 program. And you know what? It's maybe a loss for Indiana and Newcastle, but man, it's big for Ohio. Gary going out on his own. And as we know, David, the 206 program in Ohio is absolutely massive with all the kart tracks and, of course, the Buckeye Karting Challenge. Really a hotbed, I think, for four-cycle racing in the U.S.
Well, again, let's be honest. It's only a couple hours away.
That's true.
4 to 6 hours away. And you got to believe that there's still going to be a good working relationship between Comet and Gary. I think between these two operations. They even stated that in the announcement that Comet released, that there will be some kind of working togetherness in the future. So you got to believe that, if Comet receives some 4-cycle customers, they're going to send them to Gary's way. And of course, obviously Gary's going to be sending 2-cycle people towards Comet as well. And so, I'll see, you're going to probably see Gary at the same events that you typically have seen. Now he's just going to be able to call home back where he grew up back in Northeast Ohio.
Yeah. Surrounded by his extended family, which is great. Another break in the action. When we get back, we'll talk Rotax, and we'll just take a little look at some of the, let's say, chaos that happened, an unfortunate incident happening at the FIA Karting European Championship event in Portugal. It all started in 1994, when former successful kart driver Albino Parolin decided to move his passion for karting from the track to his small workshop. That's when Parolin was born. Fast forward 20 years, and Parolin's passion for the sport led to the company rejoining international competitions as a factory team in WSK and CIK FIA races, with the aim of enhancing the research and development process, immediately achieving notable results around Europe, North America, and Asia, becoming the CIK FIA Asia Pacific KZ champion in the same year. Parolin USA is North America's source for Parolin products, and we run a factory team at all of the major Superkarts USA and Rock Cup USA events. The Parolin chassis lineup for 2021 includes the Invader Shifter, the Le Mans Tag single-speed chassis for junior and senior classes, and the 28mm mini kart for the cadet classes. Parolin has been winning races all over the world, and it's on top of the podium in the USA as well, with drivers like Kai Sorensen, Mateus Orjuela, and Alessandro De Tullio. Get on the chassis that's winning. Drive a Parolin. For more information, head to ParolinUSA.com. Fast, fair, and fun. Ignite Karting offers you all of that at an affordable price. Ignite Karting utilizes the spec Margay Ignite K3 with a Briggs & Stratton 206 engine and the Hoosier R80 tire. Everyone in the junior, senior, and masters classes compete on the same Ignite K3 chassis, which puts all the emphasis squarely on driver development. Additionally, Ignite Karting is accessible at the local, regional, and national level. Special events for 2022 include the Ignite Majors, featuring events at the Daytona International Speedway, Charlotte Motor Speedway, the Quincy Grand Prix, Newcastle Motorsports Park, and the Motorsports Country Club of Cincinnati. Those in the Midwest can enjoy the 5-round regionally based Ignite Challenge at tracks in Illinois, Ohio, and Missouri. Local club programs have also been established in other states like Idaho, Texas, Nebraska, New York, Florida, and more. Join Margay Racing for some fast, fun, and great memories at an Ignite track near you. All information on Ignite events and Ignite kart packages, including dealers in your area, are available at ignitekarting.com. Get off the couch and onto the track this year. Ignite Karting. Fuel your passion. Back for more on this edition of the This Week in Karting podcast, episode 43, May the 17th, 2022. Rob Howden alongside David Cole. David, as always, every year, kind of waiting to see what the chassis partners will be for the Rotax Grand Finals, one of the biggest events of the year, the Olympics of karting, if you will. The Grand Final is a tremendous event this year, being held in Portimao, Portugal, November 19th to the 26th. And the announcement we always wait for, not a big surprise this particular year, but always waiting for the chassis partners that are lined up with Rotax Max to provide the chassis for this great event.
Yeah, it's the same brands we've typically seen over the last several years that have been the chassis partners with the Rotax Grand Finals. And again, Burrell Art going with the Micro and DD2 chassis. So they'll be the official providers for those two classes. IP Karting and the Praga brand will be the Mini and DD2 Masters categories, while Sody Kart has now 4 go with junior and senior max, along with E20 senior and the new E20 junior program. So those are the 2 electric kart categories. We saw the senior category make its official debut at the Grand Finals in 2021, which was pretty exciting racing. Again, all electric powered vehicles. Now they're going to bring in a junior category for the 2022 edition of the Rotax Grand Finals. Again, the BRP electric engine that is utilized. Again, this is a program that's kind of been in the works for pretty much a decade now, slowly getting the engine a little bit better every year, making different changes to it, whether it be power supply, whether it be the actual power it outputs. And again, now it's going to be cool to see junior drivers be able to take advantage of this new electric program.
Indeed. So it's Burrell Art, Praga, and Sody Kart on board, the chassis partners for the 2022 Rotax Grand Finals. The event, as I said, November 19th to the 26th at Cartodromo International Algarve in Portimao, Portugal. David, you and I were there a few years ago, a tremendous facility. The
10.
Road, was it 10 years ago?
10 years ago.
Oh, my God.
10 years ago, this, November? I want to say, or December? Yeah.
Wow. Crazy. That's nuts. The road to Portimao for those racers here in the U.S., of course, begins with the U.S. Trophy Series program. The Trophy Series West getting kicked off a number of weeks ago. They're back at it again on Memorial Day weekend. Rounds 3 and 4 of the Trophy Series West, May 27th to 29th at the tremendous Grand Junction Motor Speedway in Grand Junction, Colorado. The Trophy Series East, David, getting things underway with their opening round June the 3rd, 4th, and 5th, so just a week later at United Karting in Baltimore, Maryland. So if you're an American racer and you know what, I'd like to be part of Team USA. Obviously, the U.S. Trophy Series is the way to go. And then, of course, they'll have their U.S. finals at the end of the season as well. We're going to be front and center for that. But yeah, the U.S. Trophy Series, dialing things in for people to earn those tickets, David, to go to this year's Grand Finals.
Yeah, that begins the path towards the grand final, or the trophy finals. Yep. That'll be held at Newcastle Motorsports Park in October. So excited to kind of go back and be part of that again. We've been at the Grand Nationals for a number of years, and we didn't have one last year, and it was kind of that one event that kind of you missed. And again, because it's great to see drivers get that ticket. It's one of the most unique prizes you can receive in our sport, to be part of one of the most spectacular events that we have across the globe in karting.
Indeed. Speaking of Portugal, let's jump into this one, David. You can kind of just run through a little bit. We're not going to try to dive into anything in terms of commentary on it. We'll just give you some of the news.
Oh, that's kind of why I put it in there.
What's that?
Nuts. Sorry. Keep going.
What?
Keep going. No, I just. The reason I put this in the script was so we could kind of discuss it.
You want to go? Want to go? All right, let's.
I don't want to get into the politics of it. I want to get into kind of a learning experience.
All right, we can do that. I'm all for. Okay, I'm all for that side of it. All right. So again, those of you obviously have probably seen throughout karting. This was a little while ago, but an investigation now underway, of course, on the FIA Karting European Championship event in Portugal. At Portimao, it was an OK senior and OK junior event. The incident in question, obviously, was the podium for the OK category. Artem Saryukin made a gesture, let's just call it a gesture, while on the podium. And David, of course, it went pretty crazy. There's a lot going on right now, as we know, with the war with the Ukraine and Russia. A social media frenzy essentially hit after that. The gesture that he made obviously had a certain connotation. The comments on his side was not the intent of the gesture. I'll let you go from here. You take it a little bit further. Lots happening. Social media frenzy, big time. Major motorsports venue, websites, media outlets, kind of running with it, and making sure there was something on their websites. Give us some more information. We'll go from there.
Yeah, I think you summed it up kind of to begin with, and I think it boils down to two things. One, this event again, it's a European FIA karting European Championship event. It's broadcasted live. It's streamed through YouTube, through Facebook. So many, they get probably good thousands of people watching this event because again, it's a global event. Yeah, it's focused on European karting, but it's a global event. Again, Artin is a Russian native competing under the Italian flag because of obviously the FIA ban on Russia currently because of the war going on between Ukraine and Russia right now. And again, this kind of just reminds you that you got to be aware of what's going on and what you're doing. And social media is obviously the kind of the pinpoint of this. So much stuff now is just brought up on social media. And again, It doesn't necessarily have to be, a news outlet. It could just be somebody that's looking to make a point out of what you do or something that you have said. And again, it could be anything, what you wear, how you approach yourself, anything. And again, so something like this, again, we always talk about, the Kimi celebration, how he has no celebration whatsoever, right? It's kind of that stone cold, no emotions.
The dry stoic kind of thing, right?
Exactly. We don't want to see that, but we want to see, excitement, jubilation. But obviously you have to be aware of how what you do and how you do that.
Yeah. So David, it happens. Artem does this on the podium. A social media frenzy hits after that. And then of course the fallout immediately because everybody's kind of, seeing what's happening and taking their stances on it. Ward Racing, his team that he races with, removes him from the team. The ACI Italian group drop his license, and you had mentioned the fact that they're right.
That's the ASN of FIA for Italy.
Yeah. So in the US, there's ACUS, but the ASN is of course the motorsports, the governing body of motorsports. ACI Italy is there. They end up dropping Artem's license because using the fact that they had the FIA ban on Russia, saying, "Hey, listen, you're no longer licensed by Italy." He gets disqualified from the results just prior to the second event in Spain. But David, still. At this point, do we have an official release from the FIA or not?
But that's the thing. So prior to the second event of the European Championships, it was noted that if you go back to the results from Portugal, all the results show him disqualified and removed from the event. But yet there's still been no official statement from the FIA regarding this situation, stating that he was disqualified or removed from the event. And there's been no official. There wasn't a statement about the dropping of his license from the ACI. So at least we have that much. But the FAA, aside from saying they're investigating the situation, have not done anything further. And I find it hard to believe because they've already had that second event that they wouldn't have been able to issue a statement like this. So it's again, this is take it back to the situation we saw at South Garda with the driver throwing the nose cone at another driver and then the fight breaking out in the scales. Again,
Corberry.
This is the negative. Unfortunately, our sport only gets highlighted when negativity occurs and something blows up on social media. And that's unfortunately the problem, again, with this situation and with that situation as well. And so these drivers, they should, again, who was the driver again from South Garda?
Corberry,
yeah. He should have been obviously penalized for and punished for the actions that he did do. This one is kind of, we're waiting to hear more answers. The driver went on social media, said, made a statement about it. But again, it's still like, I'm almost wanting more details from this because again, I just find it hard to believe that, in 2022 that we're still dealing with this type of situations.
Well, you mentioned one again. I didn't want to get overly into the commentary side, but you mentioned
I'm not trying to. But
you mentioned it as being a learning
right.
tool, right? And so this is essentially what you have to put out. Obviously, we hope that people in the karting industry are listening, parents, drivers, whatever it may be. the massive and continual increase of social media means that everything you do is going to be, is obviously going to be potentially pushed out to everybody. You mentioned 100% that mainstream motorsports media, they don't ever really pick anything up from karting unless it's a negative, right? If it's a negative thing, they've got to run with it. They want to sensationalize it. Look what's happening. Otherwise, they're not going to be there to support what we do.
And then they go away.
Yeah, and then they eventually then they go away. They don't come back and talk about the amazing racing that we have. It's only when it suits their deal. But again, the teaching thing is that, listen, guys, if you're racing, obviously you have to present yourself professionally, right? You have to make sure that you understand that all eyes are on you when you're on the podium. There's cameras. Cameras are phones are now the video cameras of the 1970s and 1980s and 1990s, right? Everything you see, the phones are up. That's going to get out there. And I think maybe it's just would you take it, David, as a warning or as a learning opportunity to make sure that you treat every time you're on the podium, every time you're on the racetrack with an opportunity to show your class? Not
just the podium, what you do on the grid, what you're doing in the tent, what you're actually doing on social media yourself.
Yeah.
Things that you're liking, things that you're sharing. Again, everything that you do online is a digital footprint of your past. Things I look at some of the memories and things I stated, 10, 12 years ago on Facebook. It kind of, it's like, ooh, you just don't quite know exactly what the context was because, again, but it's there. And so I think that, again, this is kind of just one of those learning lessons of, everything now on social media is just, it's amped up depending on how things go. And you just have to be mindful of exactly what you're doing and when you're doing it. And especially drivers that are looking to move up the ranks,
Yep.
Sponsors or potential sponsors are going to do their due diligence, and they're going to look back at your Instagram. They're going to look back at your Facebook. They're going to look back at your Twitter, and just be aware of those things. And especially the actions, how you portray yourself trackside and away from the racetrack.
Well said, 100%. Like you said, I like the digital footprint was the line. Like you said, that's your resume, folks. So make sure that everything you post, everything you do is, like I said, done with class, and so you can move forward for sure.
Thankfully, NASCAR IndyCar is not looking my way.
All right, folks, final break of the action. When we get back, we'll kind of go through what's been presented on ekartingnews.com so you can go have a look. A lot of great content coming out on the website, through our podcast, and you name it, the EKN Radio Network as well over the last couple of weeks. 2019 marked a new era for the Kartlift brand. The company that Tim Coyne owned and operated since 2003, one with a long tradition of quality products for the karting industry, was purchased by Ted Fashing and his business, Stockholm Karting Center, in October of 2019. Stockholm Karting Center Inc. has added the Kartlift brand to their very successful Triple T Race Products brand that has been fabricating parts for the drag racing industry for the past 25 years. We're small enough where the owner answers the phone and every call is important to us, but we're large enough to get the job done. We pride ourselves on the quality and personal customer service that we provide on the phone or at the track. Kartlift stands, as you know, can be found at racetracks all over the country. If you race alone, or if you're a parent with a cadet or junior driver, let our one-man winch lift make your race days easier. Position the hooks under the rear bumper, push the button, and your cart is raised into position and you're ready to go. We have traditional cart stands, single upright storage stands, Kartlift stackers for storing 2 carts at once, tire changers, and skid plate kits. Kartlift stands are available at the finest kart shops around the country, or you can order online at kartlift.com. For more information, give us a call at 877-777-8020. That's 877-777-8020. Get a Kartlift and leave your crew at home. In karting, it's important to be supported by the right people. With over 40 years of experience in the sport, Trinity Karting Group has everything you need to make your program successful. We do it all, and we do it right. Trackside support and arrive and drive programs at many of karting's biggest East Coast events, full product sales and service, and professional coaching from our experienced staff. Trinity Karting Group is a full-service operation based at the Motorsports Country Club of Cincinnati, which gives us access to our custom-designed driver training facility. This allows us to offer private one-on-one coaching to take you to the next level. From arrive and drive and coaching programs to the parts you need, let Trinity Karting Group provide you with customer service and a racing experience second to none. Trinity Karting Group is an official Kart Republic race team, providing full trackside support at all the major USA karting events, including the SCUSA Pro Tour, United States Pro Kart Series, SCUSA Super Nationals 25, and other events throughout the 2022 season. TKG has in stock Kart Republic, IAME, MG and Avinco tires, and more products for those in Ohio and the Midwest region. Trinity Karting Group has a long history of the sport, a winning pedigree, and we're dedicated to driver development. We take pride in our professional approach and our positive attitude. Let us build a custom race program for you. Give us a call at 513-421-4463 or check us out online at trinitykartinggroup.com. Welcome back to this edition of This Week in Karting, episode 43. We'll wrap things up now with a look at the EKN editorial, our podcast review, and what we've got coming on the EKN radio network. David, editorially, a lot of stuff going on. We had a bunch of race reports on the website. The Route 66 Sprint Series at Newcastle. We mentioned already the start of the U.S. Rotax Trophy West Series at the Phoenix Kart Racing Association, and really most recently a race report from the California Pro Kart Challenges, the PKC getting started in Buttonwillow.
Yeah, we got those race reports going. We'll have the recent California Pro Kart Challenge from Buttonwillow in the opposite direction.
That's right.
That'll be coming up this week on the website. We got some driver of the months that we published. We got the most recent was Stephen Miller in March of 2022, and we'll be getting the April one out here at the end of the week as well. Shifter Kart driver rankings and tag rankings for the first time in 2022 were published on April. So we'll get hopefully a May update at the end of the month. So
That's
we'll
kind of
get
right?
up to
a little Q1 update to see who's came out of the gate strongly. Obviously, not much of a huge change, but good to kind of see, after the Winter Series stuff. I know you went down and got the spreadsheet out and went deep on that one. It's cool to see how some of the drivers kind of working their way up based on the Winter Series results, right?
Yeah, it is. And yeah, I think both tag and shifter kart, both those rankings, last year we pretty much could kind of guarantee who was going to be where. Right. I think this year, aside from Norberg, I think it's kind of up in the air, and we'll see what happens, especially pro shifter. We got Martin Kremers coming up. He's now into the top 10 after winning both races at the Winter Nationals. Mm-hmm. Brian Norberg picking up 4 straight USPKS victories. That certainly helps him. Man. So again, drivers could make up points at the Pro Tour. So maybe a driver coming up at the Spring Nationals is able to double up there and help his chances at the tag driver rankings as well. So again, but behind Norberg, it's a lot of changing, a lot of different drivers that could be there as well.
We did a product spotlight on Stilo USA. The good folks at Stilo obviously have really jumped into the karting market. They understand that this is kind of where you start hooking up with young racers, not only their helmet but their new rib protector as well. So we did a product spotlight on the youth safety gear for Stilo USA. As well, David, you were trackside at the USPKS Carolina Grand Prix, another event, over 300 entries at GoPro Motorplex, full trackside coverage. And I know you enjoyed yourself down at Mooresville. Yeah,
10th time for the program being there. And yeah, it's kind of the unofficial home, kind of like the Rio is for Super Nationals. Right. The unofficial home for the USPKS is GoPro Motorplex. And again, it's just great to be there, and a great to be at that facility and see it fill up as much as it did, and still have the room and capability to have more drivers and more trailers there. So that's going to be fun to watch as we continue with the USPKS program.
So I've been pretty much flat out for the last month. I realized as I was coming home from Indianapolis after our Road to Indy event there at IMS that I'd only been home in the home office for 3 days over the last 4 weeks. So you jumped in. I started the season off with doing a new program, an article series called 10 Questions. And we did 10 questions with a number of different people. I wasn't around, so you jumped in with this one. I just used the word jump. But I literally didn't mean to do that.
You
But
didn't.
Rick,
I know. I got it.
But Rick,
I did.
but Rick Jump was the guy you talked to, obviously tech director for the USPKS. Awesome interview with Rick, and again, one of the absolute awesome dudes in our sport, right?
Yeah, I think one of the more respected individuals that we do have. Again, people, he has that humor. Again, he has that personality that you kind of just have to understand a little bit.
Yeah.
To get, again, he's a guy who comes from dirt racing, and again, that's it's a completely different world than say an F1 world, or even the open wheel world a little bit too. So again, Rick will give the shirt off of his back to you and to help you out, and that's something that you love to see with a tech guy, but yet he still has that discipline to make sure that, hey, we need to be following the rules and we need to keep people safe, and he's a great personality to have in our sport.
Hey, perfect segue for me to tell the Homestead story. So, folks, at Homestead for the Scusa race, there was one driver who got DQ'd from a good position. I can't remember what it was. Doesn't even really matter, but probably a top 5 or a podium.
I thought it was a win. Yeah,
it might have been a win. The driver got DQ'd for squish on the engine, and of course, I want just for me, I'm interested. I wanted to know how close it was, and I said to Rick afterwards, I said that the DQ with the squish, how close was it? And Rick's answer was perfect. He said, "It doesn't matter." It doesn't matter, right?
Right.
It's squish is squish. You're either legal or you're not legal. And he's so dry. It was just fantastic. The delivery was fantastic.
Yeah, he likes that. He likes to be no-go, arena. He hates gray area. That's something we talked about in the interview. He hates that gray area. It's either yes or no. There's no in between.
If you haven't read the article, have a look at it. I'm going to blast it out today on the EKN News Bulletin, so have a look for it coming your way. It's an excellent 10 questions interview with Rick Jump. But this is an editorial series that we're going to keep doing throughout 2022 and beyond, really giving us the opportunity to kind of put a highlight on some of the people you might not otherwise know or get to know or learn about. And again, we talked to Shelby Jocelyn, timing and scoring, Ken Johnson as well, a photographer. We did one with Dave McIntyre, the voice of the Cup Karts North America program, just some of the guys that wouldn't otherwise potentially get a spotlight here on eKarting.com.
Rob, nobody cares about announcers. Come on.
I know that. Trust me. I feel that. Maybe we'll have to do a 10 questions with David Cole pretty soon.
Nobody cares about him either.
100% nobody cares.
Not even the family.
Wow. A bunch of podcasts, folks, that we've had rolling out. We're knocking them out. I said this is episode 43 of This Week in Karting. It's been a while since we've done one of these ones. But, David, we knocked out a couple of face-to-face shows on YouTube, of course, and then they get turned into a podcast as well. We did our episode 52 with Cup Karts North America and the Cup Karts Canada program, which is exciting. For sure, talking to them about the new Cup Karts Canada program with Gerald Casely and Greg Jasperson. We did one with the Northwest Karting Association as well, as we sat down and talked to Mike Shorn and a couple of the racers who were successful coming out of the gate in the Northwest Karting Association Pad Holder Super Cup. And then, of course, David, part of the EKN trackside coverage, both the Outlap preview and the Debrief Race Report podcasts for the USPKS Carolina Grand Prix. Knocking out a bunch of podcasts over the last couple of weeks.
Can you believe we're at 300 now?
300 podcasts in total. And listen, the crazy thing, David, that doesn't count all the stuff we did back in the 2000s. Did we even
we
call
have
some back then?
We have some of them uploaded as podcasts. We did a couple of the happy hours. We've again, I think it was during the COVID era where we were looking for more content. Yeah. And I think we went back to the archives and we were able to publish a few of them into podcast form. But again, just 300 now total podcasts that we've done and published through our, I think 2017, I think is when we really started focusing on putting out podcasts.
That's amazing. Yeah. And we're closing in on number 100 for the debrief as well. I just, Dave, I think back to those days when we used to, set up the recording box and whatever it was back in the mid 2000s. I had to invest in to make sure we were able to record things, and we'd have
finally got rid of that thing.
I love the fact you're like just lamenting how bad that was. But we used to do it in the hotel lobby, right? We'd literally come back from an event, set up in a hotel lobby. And again, it wasn't live; it was live, but people would sit there and we'd drink some beers and and talk to the people. It was fun. Those were good times for sure.
Yeah, we're gonna try and do some more of that again. I've been meaning to do our hot seats again. It just the USPKS schedule with Friday having the qualifying was really busy. So now that we're not doing that, hopefully I'll get one done at Road America. Hopefully I'll be able to do that as well at the Spring Nationals coming up, because again, I'll be riding solo there. So I'll be able to, I just got to be able to, I'm not quite sure who I want to wrangle for this show. I might go driver oriented, because again, we don't talk to a lot of the drivers, and we do a lot of our face-to-face and other shows with a lot of the industry members. So maybe we'll do a driver or two or something like that. But again, just hopefully we'll get back to it. I got the equipment now ready to do it. It's just time.
Yep, I hear you, dude. The ECAN Radio Network, if you don't know about it, it's our 24-hour, 7-day-a-week channel, the only karting radio station in the world where we stream all of our broadcasts, our live broadcasts as well. When we're streaming live, go on the ECAN Radio Network this year as well. This, of course, episode of This Week in Karting will be playing. David, I know in preparation for the SCUSA Pro Tour Spring Nationals, you've been playing a bunch of the old, I've been obviously watching it as you post to social, a bunch of the old Spring Nationals events. And again, folks, the Spring Nationals was the very first Pro Tour event back in 2010. The Winter Nationals weren't added until a couple of years ago. And for those of you who don't know, the Super Nats used to be part of the Pro Tour during the first number of years before the Winter Nationals were added. So I know you've archived a bunch of our play-by-play events from the Spring Nats. They're playing those on the ECAN Radio Network as well.
Yeah, we're doing Utah focused. We did last year's Spring Nationals, and then today we're doing 2019 Spring Nationals. This will be playing on our EKN Radio Network on Wednesday, and then Thursday we'll go even further back to the first time SuperKarts USA was at Utah in 2012, and that was actually the Summer Nationals.
Yeah, that's right.
In 2012. So we'll play that to kind of show the 3 different events that SuperKarts USA has been able to host in Utah.
And of course, all the face-to-face shows that we do on YouTube eventually become podcasts. They, of course, then go to the ECAN Radio Network. We've got more face-to-face shows coming up over the next couple of weeks. First and foremost being Terry Trader from the Quincy Grand Prix. We'll talk to Terry about how things are dialing in for that event. We're going to grab a couple of the race drivers that love that event as well. We'll bring them on the show. So look for some new face-to-face shows on the ECAN Radio Network. And if you haven't downloaded the ECAN Radio Network app, just go to your favorite app provider and jump on board. Look for eKarting News on there, and you'll be able to download the ECAN Radio Network app. David, let's wrap things up. So what's coming up on eKartingNews.com? Where are we going to be? Let's begin. To be honest, you've got May off. You're like literally phoning it in this month. Well, by phoning it in, I mean getting an opportunity to spend some weekends with your family at home.
Yeah,
cut some grass, take care of the honeydews, and before you get back out onto the road.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I do need to. I got a lot of stuff I got to do here at the house, and again, mowing the lawn and all the landscaping. It's hard work, Rob. Living in a condo, you don't get to actually do that anymore.
You don't have to. That's the word.
You don't have to. Good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I will be. Yeah. We'll. I was gonna let you go. Sorry.
No, you're good, man. SuperKarts USA Pro Tour Spring Nats.
Yeah. So I will be trackside at a karting event. You will not be, because you're too good for us now.
For the first time in 12 years, I'm going to miss a Pro Tour event because they moved it from May, where it always is, to June.
I know it's crazy. It's crazy to believe that it'll be a surreal event. It'll feel like NOLA in 2020, but thankfully no more COVID. I hope.
Yeah, true. Yeah, so I'm not going to be there, which sucks. I've announced every Pro Tour race until this coming Spring National, so I'll cry myself a tear while I'm at Road America.
Yeah, at Siepkens, right?
I don't go to Siepkens because our hotel is always in the other direction. I just don't go to Siepkens these days.
Oh, okay.
We're in Sheboygan. No, we're in Manitowoc, so I'm in the other direction.
Oh yeah, not good. Yeah, so looking forward to being trackside again. We'll provide again all the videos, photos that we've been doing. we'll hopefully have more driver interviews right after each session, because again,
I love those.
We'll be streaming still live, but we won't have the full production that we typically do. But so we'll have those videos. We'll have obviously our top 10s as we typically do. We'll have daily reports. Hopefully I'll be able to record a couple of podcasts. Maybe I'll sit down with Tom Kutcher. We haven't heard from him in a long time.
That's a great idea.
Maybe I'll sit down with Tom, and because again, we have different opposing views on things. So I think it would be I think it would be a fun little conversation. Now he has a son-in-law, so I think that's a different
that's
aspect.
True. He's going to have 2 by the end of the season.
He's going to have 2 by the end of the year. So it's a different it's a different timeline for Tom right now. So that might be an interesting one.
Let's give a shout out to Alexis as well. Alexis Kutcher getting married just a couple of weeks ago, right?
Yeah. The 7th. Yeah. May 7th, I believe.
Her and Chadwick. Congratulations. Awesome.
Yeah. So Superkarts Pro Tour Spring Nationals, again, rounds 3 and 4 of the Pro Tour, Utah Motorsports Campus. Again, amazing facility. I'm hoping the weather conditions will be better than they are in July, which is cooler, or will hopefully be cooler than what they are in July, because it can get pretty hot there in the salt desert.
No doubt. The funny thing is, from there, David, you and I look forward to our next EKN Trackside Live program. We'll be out live on the mic. We'll be doing the full Trackside Live production as we normally do. You and I are for your first time heading to Pat's Acres Racing Complex, the California Rock Championship at Pat's Acres, June the 24th to the 26th. You and I are going to be there. We're staying trackside. This may be one of the events I'm really looking forward to this year.
Oh, same here. Again, a track I love doing that. I love going to places I've never been to kind of just get a new feel, a new take on, again, all racetracks are different, and they all have the different character, different uniqueness about it. And certainly there's no other facility like Pat's Acres with the area that it's constructed in, the way it's laid out, the history that it has there. And again, the great Ager family, maybe see all of them there. Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've ever seen them all together at one location.
You probably have.
So maybe, we normally, you'll see Cam at this one, you'll see Dalton at this one, see Brady at this one. Obviously we see Maddie here and there. So maybe we'll get to see all, including mom and dad together.
Chris and Lisa,
Yep. So that'll be a unique one. And then we'll throw in Artie in there too, because he's part of the family.
That's true enough. He is. Yeah.
So it'll be, I'm excited to be there. And again, Andy's program, it's always, it's that atmosphere of fun, but yet very competitive.
Agreed.
And so you got all that element into one little bowl, and it's going to be a great week.
If you are a rock racer and you're looking for an event to add in your summer season, this is the one to do it. The California Rock Championship, Pat's Acres Racing Complex, a challenging track, full EKN Trackside Live coverage. I look forward to being there. David and I are pretty pumped with that one. And with that, David, it wraps up this edition of This Week in Karting. Make sure to follow everything on social media that we do. Any final words? I know here's the thing. We probably have to do another This Week in Karting next week or the week after, because there's a lot of stuff coming down the pipe right now.
If you're available, yeah.
Wow, but that's true. That is 100% true.
I mean, when you get to Indy, I'm not quite sure what day.
I'm here for another week. I leave next Wednesday for the Carbonite Classic at what is now back to being called Indianapolis Raceway Park, David. It's IRP once again.
That's the old school name, right? Baby. I love that one.
So we'll be back at the 5/8 mile oval for both USF 2000 and Indy Pro 2000. Of course, that full field stacked with drivers we've covered over the last 10 years on ekartingnews.com. And then from there, I think I get a couple of days off and we go to VIR for USF Juniors, a track I've never been to. So a lot of stuff happening. My next karting event really isn't until the California Rock Championship at Pat's Acres. I'm unbelievably busy. My June and July are stacked. I think I go on a run, I figured, of 10 races over 12 weekends, and then a bit of a breather in August to take a break. Mm-hmm. So pretty crazy. But we'll try to jam some podcasts, and we can do it.
Yeah, we'll get it. We'll get another this week in there, and then again, we'll get some recording, some other stuff in June for sure.
That's it, folks. Thank you so much for tuning into this edition of This Week in Karting. Lots coming, as we said. Make sure to have a look every morning to ekartingnews.com. And if you have not signed up for the news desk bulletin, do that. Become part of EKN Nation, and we'll make sure we drop all the news to your email box, your inbox, whenever we can, usually once or twice a week. Thank you so much for joining us, folks, on this edition. Again, episode 43 of This Week in Karting. Big thank you again, as I said, to the sponsor of this particular broadcast, Briggs Racing, good friends of ekartingnews.com, and of course, massive friends of the sport of karting as well. Thank you to Briggs for all they do. On behalf of David Cole, folks, my name's Rob Howden. Bye for now.